great project for young and intermediate woodworkers is a keepsake box. Now technically it's a tray because it doesn't have a top. However, you can make one where you have a lid. Now what's nice about this box is that the grain runs along the box. It's all in one direction. So if you can picture this plank folding up and then taking two sections and slapping them on the front and back, you've got your box. What's nice about this construction is that if the ends don't line up perfectly, the box still works. The key to the box is that the bottom is square. And because you're lining up the grain, the plank, which is 5.5 inches wide, is always 5.5 inches wide. So let's see what that looks like as we put it together. This project's a great exercise in measurements. As we learned in our tool demonstrations, we can use the combination square. We want to mark 5.5 inches. We can lock it. We can mark our marks coming away from the measuring tape. We can then take that, holding our combination square, finding the middle of that mark, and finding our bottom. Now as a lefty, I'll cut as a lefty. I've got the line lined up over the front foot. I've got my back foot lined up with that. I've got my little teeth facing down. I'm gently holding the saw, and I'm pulling. To keep life simple, I'm going to mark this with a B, and I know that's the bottom. I'll set it aside. Any good instruction, put your initials on every piece so they don't get confused with someone else's. Now, we could check this and see if it's truly 5.5 inches, which it is, slightly under, but close enough. And now, to save time, we can use this as a template for the other pieces. Now, great exercise is to examine the piece of wood and find out where the knots are and try and avoid them being on the edges so that you don't have to hammer through them. Now, the bottom has knots, but I don't really mind because they're not anywhere I'm going to hammer. Now, this one has a knot right where I'd want to hammer, although I could have it facing up. So instead, I'll avoid it altogether and start on this end. So I line up the backs, and your fingers are very sensitive. If it feels like it's lined up, it's lined up. So once you have that feeling just right, and on the front and the back, you can mark a line. And now you've got your next piece that you can cut. Listen for that growling, resetting, repeating. Now we've got one of our sides, like that. Lay it flat. Take the same template again. Do the same exercise. What we're going to end up with are 3 pieces that are 5.5 inches long, and then 2 pieces that are 7 inches long. Get in a position, do the same thing. This lesson presupposes that your woodworkers have been through the safety exercise as well as the Jenga blocks exercise to learn how to cut. And in fact, this 36-inch long piece of wood can be used for both. Okay, so now we've got our 3 pieces. Now we need 2 7-inch pieces. So again, pull out the measuring tape. Let's start from the good end. And there's no right side or left side or wrong side to measure from. It's really where will the nails end up. So 7 inches from here, looks like there's nothing in the way. Here, I'm still going to have that knot that's in the way, so I want to avoid it. It's good to learn how to read your wood. Another way to learn how to read your wood is to look down the end of it. You can see the growth rings of the tree. The tree was basically growing like this. Sometimes you'll have a ring that's right in the center like this. And if you have that, that part might pop out. Or it might also imply that the wood might snap lengthwise in two. So watch the wood, see if there's any cracks, see if there's anything you should pay attention to. Like right here, there's a crack you can see. And so the wood, as it's cut and dried, and as humidity enters and leaves the wood, it will change a little bit. So it's always good to examine the piece of wood and figure out what's going on with it. It's great for your woodworkers. They get more in tune with this organic object that they're transforming. So, avoiding this side, put a big old X so we don't forget. Now let's measure 7 inches. Making our V right at 7 inches, reinforcing it with a nice perpendicular line, 3 fingers on the wood, 1 finger on the ruler, 1 thumb in the curve. Make our line. Now we can get our first 7-inch piece. Seems relatively square. So why don't we take that, line it up, use it as a template for our next one. Okay, so I'm going to hang on to the long side and cut the short side. You can also use the hold down. Let's do that. Safety first. Keeping the hold down far away so that the front acts like a lever pushing down. Let's practice with the 2-hand grip. It's very hard. You see how it's pivoting? So I'm going to use both. You could assist a young woodworker at this point. Okay. So now, got a little bit of scrap. Could use that for a jigsaw puzzle. We could use this for string art. It's always good for something. We'll take this opportunity to do a little cleanup. Now, this part of the project is very interesting because you can learn about the properties of wood in a new way, which is thickness. How do we make sure that the nails go where we want the nails to go? Well, we could guess, or we could draw lines. So we know that we see there's a C shape here, and we want to have a C shape drawn on here so we know where to put the nails. We take those pieces away, and we start with something simpler. We know that these 2 short ends want to join to the bottom similarly. So we could take one, and we make a little mark. We can use the bottom as a template. Now we have a line that is the thickness of the bottom. And we can make a little dot right in the center for 1 nail, and 2 more evenly spaced for 2 more nails. You can set that aside. We can do the same thing on the other side. Dragging the pencil, we get a line, we make a dot, 2 more evenly spaced dots, and we have that. Now we can picture, for the long side, we're doing this, but on 3 sides. Right? Connect those 2 lines. Do the same thing. And you can start to see that C shape. So again, 3 dots, evenly spaced. It's great for young woodworkers to start visualizing, trusting their eyes, realizing they can do things organically without helpers. Same exercise, drawing a line, figuring out our spacing. Figuring out our spacing. We got our C shape. We're putting our dots. We're estimating. We never want to put a nail at the very end, or a screw for that matter, because it will tend to split the wood. So we're keeping things spaced on the inside, nice and far away. This box is surprisingly strong, even with these few number of nails. Okay, so now we've got several pieces ready to go. The next step, we put on some hearing protection because the hammering can get loud. What we're going to do is we figured out where to put the nails, and now we're going to start prepping them. When I say prep them, what I mean is having them stick out just a little bit on the other side. So I'm going to take one nail using the tap, tap, bang method, prep one nail, then prep all the nails on this piece, and same with the other three pieces. Here we go. Great. Now we've got our pieces prepped. We've got little porcupines of pieces. At this point, we can use our front vise to hold the bottom while we nail it to one of the sides. One of the short sides, that is. So I've lined up the bottom so it's completely level with the saw stop. This helps me align and keep things square. Now I'm using my fingers to feel that the sides are lined up and the bottom is lined up, and then I'm going to hammer it together. At this point, you've got an L shape, which is strong enough to stand up on its own. Now, remember how we have the nails prepped and sticking out? I'm using that to our advantage. It holds it in place for me. I'm always working on top of the woodworking station, never on the table. We want to protect the table. Plus, this is very stiff and it provides more resistance. And so the force of the hammer delivers more of a blow as opposed to being absorbed by a soft table. What I like to tell woodworkers is if you're going to miss hard. Really hit it hard, and you can hit it fewer times. You can also hear the difference when it's driving a nail or whether the nail is already seated. Now we can flip it on its side, and things will go quite quickly. I like to hammer one nail on each side, each of the three sides, to keep everything registered. So I start with the bottom, once things are lined up, and do one nail. Then we can do one of the sides. We can always adjust it with our fingers. And then do the other side. Then do the rest. The lines are on the outside. Some people don't like that. They say, oh, we want to hide that. And I say, you know what? Why hide it? They're maker's marks. It shows that you made it, not a machine. Hey, I bent a nail over. What do? Find a claw, and we try and peel it back up. We're levering away from ourselves to be safe. Now this nail, I don't think it's worth keeping. So I'm going to take it out and do it again. You'll notice that I was going slowly enough that even though I goofed, I didn't keep goofing and drive it all the way into the wood, making it impossible to get back out. Same operation. Tap, tap. And there's something going on that makes it not want to go in there. It might be following an old path. And there we have it, Keepsake Box. Decorating is a lot of fun. If you want to add a couple extra special elements to it, you can break the corners with sandpaper or a rasp. You can use a plane, but I don't recommend it once the nails are in because there's the risk of hitting a nail with the blade, and that will be hard on the blade. Keepsake Box.